Hello students, so in this lecture also we'll continue with the photo multipliers tube only. So in the last lecture I discussed about the construction of photo multipliers tube. Let's discuss the working. So how the additional electrons are emitted, or you can say how the photoelectric current gets amplified inside the photo multiplier tube, I'll discuss here now. So as I've told you, this photomultiplier tube has a photosensitive cathode. So this photosensitive cathode, what it does, since it is this cathode is coated with a photoemissive material, so when light will fall on this is the this is the photocathode. So when light will fall on this photosensitive cathode, and when the energy of the photons in the light is greater than the band gap of the material, that is photoemissive material on the cathode, coated on the cathode, when the energy of photon is greater than the band gap energy of the photoemissive material of the cathode, then electrons will emit out from the cathode after gaining from the striking photons. So what is happening when light is falling on this photosensitive cathode? Electrons get emitted. Now these electrons, they will get emitted and get accelerated because of the applied voltage between the diodes. So here for the first, this is the first dionode. So between the first dionode and the cathode, there is a voltage applied here. So this voltage will be used for accelerating the emitted electrons from the cathode. Now once the electrons get accelerated, they will strike the diodes again. Now after striking the diodes with a greater acceleration, they will emit additional electrons from the diode. So what is happening here? Suppose on striking of this incoming photon, or you can say on striking of this incoming light on this photosensitive cathode, let me suppose one electron gets emitted out. Now this one electron that is emitting out from this photosensitive cathode will be called the primary electron. Now this primary electron gets accelerated because of the voltage applied between this diode and the photosensitive cathode. This primary electron will get accelerated and it will strike the diode. Now on striking the diode, it will emit out some more electrons. So the primary electron will get emitted out, as well as more secondary electrons get emitted out. So the number of electrons emitting from this diode surface will be more as compared to the number of electrons emitting from this photosensitive cathode. So in this way, now the more number of electrons they have been emitted from the first diode, now these electrons again they will get accelerated by the voltage applied between the first diode and the second diode. So because of this voltage, the additional electrons that have been emitted from the first diode, they will get accelerated and they will strike the second diode. Again they going to again more number of additional electrons will get emitted out because of this striking. So more number of electrons will get emitted out. So in this way, the number of diodes, more you use the number of diodes, more amplification of electron will occur, more number of electrons will get emitted out. And when we and this is the last anode, sorry, this is the last electrode, which is the positive anode, because the anode is, this electrode is connected to the positive terminal of the battery. So whatever electrons have been emitted out in this photomultiplier tube will be collected by this positively connected anode and will form the electric current. So this is how this photoelectric current, because of this electrons, this photoelectric current will get amplified. So again I am repeating, initially in vacuum type photoemissive cell, what was happening, there was only one cathode and only one anode, and there were no diodes or no intermediate electrodes were present in those photoemissive cells. So what was happening in vacuum type photoemissive cell, whatever electron is being emitted out from the cathode because of the striking photon, that electron used to get collected by the anode, and the current was and the photoelectric current was due to that electron only. But in photomultiplier tubes, what is happening? There are various intermediate diodes present in this glass chamber. In the glass chamber of photomultiplier tube, there are various diodes, or you can say intermediate electrodes present in this glass chamber of the photomultiplier tube. And because of these diodes, whatever electron was emitted out initially, or you can say the primary electrons that was emitted out initially because of the incoming photon or because of the incoming light, those electrons were get multiplied or were amplified in the mean process because of the emission of secondary electrons. So these voltages were used for accelerating the electrons, and finally whatever electrons were amplified during this process, the number of electrons, they will get collected by the anode and will form the electric current. This is how photoelectric current gets amplified in the photomultiplier tube. Now the primary the electrons, whichever electrons, whether the primary electrons or the secondary electrons, or you can say the additional electrons, whatever electrons they getting emitted out, they will travel in proper direction. Why? Because the diodes, these diodes are so shaped and placed inside the glass chamber in such a way that the electrons after being emitted out will strike the diodes and will travel in the proper direction only. So this is how electrons are traveling, and moreover the voltages applied between this diodes, or you can say between the photosensitive cathode, or you can say between the diodes, the voltages applied are applied in such a way, the value of voltages are such that the emission, that the electrons get accelerated and they strike the diode and they emit out more secondary electrons. That is what I am trying to say. The voltage is applied in such a way that the secondary emission of electrons may take place because of the primary electrons. So this is what the working of photomultiplier tube is. Now as I've told you, because of the primary, when the primary electrons will strike the diode surface, when the primary electrons will strike the diode surface, secondary electrons will come out, that is more number of additional electrons will come out. Now let the number of electrons that is coming out from the diode surface when one primary electron is striking the diode, let it be G. So what I am trying to say is, let G be the number of secondary electrons that is coming out of the diode surface when one electron is striking the diode surface. Let the number of secondary electrons for one electron striking the diode surface be G. And let the number of diodes used, let this number of diodes used in this glass chamber of photomultiplier tube be N. Now since G number of secondary electrons are being emitted out because of one primary electron or because of one electron striking the diode surface, so we can say that the amplification of the diode is G, or you can say the amplification at each stage of diode is G. And when n number of diodes are being used in the photomultiplier tube, then the total amplification of this photomultiplier tube will be G to the power n. That is G to the power n. The total amplification of the photomultiplier tube is G to the power n, where G is the amplification of each stage of diode and n is the number of diodes being used in the photomultiplier tube. Now this G, that is the amplification of each stage of diode, or you can say the number of additional electrons being emitted out because of one electron striking the diode surface, let this G basically it depends on the voltage between successive diodes. What I'm trying to say is, this amplification factor G, it depends on various other factors. That is, first, the voltage between successive diodes. If the voltage between successive diodes applied is high, then more number of additional electrons will emit out and the value of G will increase. This is the first factor, that is voltage between successive diodes. Second factor on which G depends is the surface composition of diodes. Surface composition of diodes, and the third factor is geometry of diodes. So depending on these factors, these three factors, that is voltage between successive diodes, then geometry of diodes and surface composition of diodes, depending on these three factors, the value of G, that is the amplification factor, may vary between 0.5 to 10. The value of G may vary between 0.5 to 10. So the amplification may vary between 0.5 to 10. This is 0.5. And if the number of diodes, or you can say the number of stages used in the photomultiplier tube, that is number of diodes used is let n, that is n is the number of diodes used in the photomultiplier tube, let its value be vary between 9 to 14, because in commercial photomultiplier tubes the number of stages that are used, the number of intermediate stages that are used in a commercial photomultiplier tube generally vary between 9 to 14. So as we know, the total amplification factor is G to the power n, where the value of G is varying between 0.5 to 10 and the value of n is varying between 9 to 14. So the total amplification will vary between 10 to the power 5 to 10 to the power 7. 10 to the power 5 to 10 to the power 7 will be the range of the amplification, that is A, given by this commercial photomultiplier tubes. Now, advantage of photomultiplier tubes, as I have told you, the advantage is that since the photomultiplier tube is having very high sensitivity, it can detect very low level of luminous light intensity. And the disadvantage of photomultiplier tube is that it can amplify stray radiation, that is spurious signals, very low level stray radiation also it can amplify in the process, which may lead to the enhancement of noise. Other disadvantages of photomultiplier tube is that since the whole arrangement is encased, is mounted inside the glass envelope, so it is mechanically fragile. The shape and sizes are limited and they are physically very large. This photomultiplier tubes need high voltages for the acceleration of electrons and therefore amplification of photoelectric current. So high voltage power requirement is there, and photomultiplier tubes are, because of all these factors, it makes the photomultiplier tubes expensive. So this was all about photomultiplier tubes. I am ending this class here. We'll discuss about more different types of optical transducers in my next lecture. Thank you.